Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome to Shelf Stories, the channel that tells tales from games, books, and life. I am your host, Jason. Thank you so much for stopping by for this latest episode of Good Trouble, the series where I engage in conversations around the board gaming community with a spirit of education and compassion. This is episode 3 in my series on colonialism in board games. The first 2 episodes, I did one where I was critical of a few games, and then another one that followed up and answered some feedback. This is episode 3 that I'm going to follow up to the follow-up. For those first 2 videos, they were critical, and for the most part, the feedback was excellent. So first of all, before I do anything, thank you so much for watching and engaging. I really appreciate it. Lots of great comments, and even among people who disagreed, I had some genuine, intelligent back and forth, and I really enjoyed that, both on BGG and also on my comments. I really appreciate that. But I did get the comments, another SJW video, I can't stand it. Why do you guys keep on belly aching? Can't you just enjoy your games? Cancel culture, get your cancel culture, no politics in my games, blah, blah, blah. It's almost like cut and paste at this point, right? I know all the buzzwords. I know what people think when they see these types of culture videos. For the most part, my response to critical disagreement was to make clear that I want more games, not less. If I ever rename this channel, it will be more games, not less. I do not want to cancel anybody's game. I do not want to take away anybody's game. I want to try as much as I can to open up these themes and open up access to different communities, different designers. The more diverse and multicultural our board gaming space, I think that the hobby can do nothing but improve. And in this video, I'm not going to tell, I'm going to show. I'm going to go after the big white whale of Euro games, one of the oldest and the grandest of them all, the biggest examples of colonialism, and one that is near and dear to my heart because it is a game based on my island, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a classic game. Maybe I didn't make this clear in the previous videos, but Puerto Rico mechanically is an excellent game. It deserves all the accolades. It deserves to be on the BGG top 100 for whatever it was, 6, 7, 8 years. The role selection, the simple, elegant Euro. It's a really, really great game with a really, really problematically implemented theme and setting. So because it's a great game, I'm going to state this very, very clearly. I do not want to cancel Puerto Rico. Cancel. Again, for the people in the back, I do not want to cancel Puerto Rico. Okay? Don't want to cancel it. I want to reimagine it. I want to revision this game. And so what this video is, it is a thought exercise. It is my attempt to take the mechanical guts of a really, really excellent game that many, many people enjoy and repackage it, reimagine what it can do. Because I think that if with enough research and with enough sensitivity, we could really present something that tells a better story at the end of the day, that tells a more welcoming story, more inclusive story, and keeps that mechanical core that people love. I am going for a win-win here. Like I said, I don't want to tell, I want to show. So please stay tuned for that. The name of the revisioned new game is Puerto Rico 1898. I'll explain that title in just a minute, but there are some folks who are watching this video for the first time. Maybe they haven't seen the previous video, so I need to buzz through the criticisms. If you're not interested in that, go ahead and check the timestamp, and I will begin after a while talking about the new vision. So while I'm here pointing down to the timestamp, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel. This is Shelf Stories. I got my Good Trouble series. I got Shelf Help, where I got into mental health topics. I got Chat with Friends, critical conversations with the people in the board gaming verse. I am just getting started with this channel. Would really appreciate liking, subscribing, and keep spreading the word. All right, so let me get through the problems really, really quick. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I already have a couple videos on that. So I think that the problems become in 2 main buckets. One is in the overall story and narrative of Puerto Rico, And the second is downstream of that, which is some of the visual elements, the stuff that hits you in the face when you see it on the table. So Puerto Rico, in the very first paragraphs of the rule book, is letting you know that you are a colonizer, colonist, whatever you want to call it. 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, comes on and discovers Puerto Rico. And now you are merchants and you are in charge of building up the island. You are going to make it productive, generating resources. You're going to build the city parts of it, and you are going to take those resources and ship them off to Spain, and you are going to get rich along the way. I say it's a romanticized story because it makes it seem so easy. There's no one there. It's an empty virgin land, resources waiting to be extracted and worked with human hands and human productivity, and to set up these win-win trades. I get rich and I ship the goods off to Spain, way off of the island, and the homeland is happy, the people here are happy, everyone wins, right? And everyone wins playing the board game. It's a beautiful game. It's like I've been saying many times, an elegant Euro, nice production and beautiful art, and just it's very welcoming. It's very soothing to play. It is no accident that this game has to be Puerto Rico. I think that is part of what welcomes people in. We have another game that is like this with New Frontiers. In many of the conversations that I've had about this game, people mentioned, well, play New Frontiers, do this. There's no way that New Frontiers will be as popular as Puerto Rico. Why? The escapist fantasy, the ease that brings you, even for people who say, I don't see the theme, I only see mechanisms. Well, you got there through the theme. You got the theme welcomed you in, calmed you down, and now that you're through that gate, you're into the mechanisms. Fine, and I'm cool with that. That's fine. However, what does that romantic story erase? That land wasn't empty. There were 3 million Taino Indians. That's where this comes from. 50, 75 years later, there's in the hundreds of thousands, low hundreds of thousands. We're talking genocide, forced labor, death to disease, forced marriages. We're talking the decimation of a people that is obscured in this game. The game that says that it is located in this time period, and it has to be to maximize people's engagement with this game. It needs to be in the colonial space, and that's the story that it erases. So then you get to the downstream part, the visual presentation. The Tainos are all gone. We need labor to bring up all this cultivation and run the towns and all that kind of stuff. Where's your labor coming from? Oh yeah, ships. What in the history brought labor over in ships to the New World? Are we talking colonists? Are we talking people who are here of their free will, who work the land and they can rise up and they can be merchants themselves one day? To anyone who knows the history, it is a slap in the face to expect that this is anything else but slaves on plantations. What are you talking about? It's just a game. Don't take it so seriously, blah, blah, blah. Let's take the gamer out of it. Let's take the whole history of Puerto Rico out of it, and it just lands from the sky. And we're seeing it for the first time, and a bunch of people are walking by it, including people who know the history. All they know is the history. They have no attachment to the game. And I tell them this is a game in the colonial era, and there's whatever it is on the table. What is somebody who knows the history going to say? They're going to say, "Oh, that's slaves on plantations. Have fun with that." As much as people want to say it's only a game, I can't unsee it. And I'm sorry if that ruined your day. I can't unsee that. However, like I said, saying it a lot of times, I don't want to give up on this. I want to take what's there. I want to offer a new vision. As you can see from the title of this video, I do not want to change the setting or the theme of Puerto Rico. Rather, the first thing that I think we have to do in order to save the Puerto Rico brand for this excellent game is to fast forward the time period. Let's get out of the colonial period and all the problems that it can cause. I would like to invite you instead to consider the year 1898. It is the year of Puerto Rican independence from Spanish colonial rule. So let me tell you a story about that. It was the year of the Spanish-American War. It wasn't very long, it lasted 3 months, and there were only two combatants. It was America, which was ascendant, vigorous, and young, and wanting to, at least parts of it, wanting to expand its influence into the Caribbean. And then there was Spain, which was kind of on its last legs. It was decrepit, and it was choking its whatever islands that it had and territories that it had for more resources. So the island was primed to liberate itself and to accept any kind of help in that process. So if you read a lot of American textbooks, it'll give you the impression that America liberated, quote unquote, Puerto Rico. I mean, it is true that it never could have happened without American intervention. However, Puerto Rico and the other areas too, but focus on Puerto Rico now, had a very vigorous nationalist movement. So if you want to know more about that, please look up the name Ramon Betances and insurrections like the Grito de Lares, which will give you example after example of times when we tried to resist and earn our independence. And so now in 1898 and in years moving forward, the island has to reorient its economy. The Spanish are gone. The old trading partnerships and ways of interacting are basically gone. And now the island and its inhabitants have to figure out how to negotiate itself with its new American reality that has set in. So there's a lot to that story, but the part that I want to focus on for this particular thought experiment with the game is to focus on a tradition of independent Puerto Rican farmers. Many of them grew tobacco. Those farmers were a small businessmen. Some of them were active in the resistance or interacted beforehand in some way. And they began to compete and exert power and develop the land for themselves and figure out what they're growing and figure out what the prices are and get that interchange going. That is the health and the heartbeat of a healthy economy. Also, they're gathering politically. They're forming associations, and as a group, they're interacting with the local government, they're interacting with the American government, and trying to create conditions where more and more of the gains, the productivity, the money generated, is actually staying in the Puerto Rican land and the Puerto Rican economy. So what is the point of that story? I would like to invite anyone who engages in the Puerto Rico board game to consider a change in mind space. In the current game, you are engaging as a 16th century colonizer. What if instead you were to engage as a 19th and early 20th century Puerto Rican farmer? You are a business person and an entrepreneur. You are perhaps a nationalist or someone who participated in the liberation of Puerto Rico. Either way, you are engaging in the building up of the Puerto Rican economy, doing the things that you would do in any normal game. You are, instead of managing big old plantations that are island-wide, you have your farm, and you are diversifying the crops in your farm. You are helping build up a city. You are managing the productivity, and you are balling things up, and you're shipping them off to a place that would benefit the island locally a little bit more than it would in the previous game. You're also hiring workers, and because it's 1898, you are past the era of slavery, and the workers are there. They are Puerto Ricans who want to work and who would be happy to work for you because you are, after all, one of them. Before I get to the mechanical integration into the theme, which believe me, I got plenty of that for you coming up real soon, but I just want to get a couple of things out of the way really quickly. First is that I am very conscious that I am constructing a work of historical fiction. I'm isolating the Puerto Rican farmer, and I'm offering an opportunity to center that experience in this kind of idealized, building up the economy. I do not want to weigh a simple engine like Puerto Rican down with all history. There's so much that I could say about the Americans and the Puerto Rican peoples and the sugar companies and so many different things that happen that are negative and whatever. However, I am going the hyper-local route, and I'm isolating one experience that I think can unlock what the basic engine, the economic engine of the Puerto Rico game has to offer. My problem with the original Puerto Rico game isn't necessarily that it presents bad history. It does. That's my problem. Any simple game meant for a mass market probably should tell simple stories. I'm fine with that. It's just, what is erased? What is covered up? That's my concern. And if I'm isolating the Puerto Rican farmer, I don't think I'm covering up anything in particular. I'll tell the stories that I need to, or I like to see them in the rule book, but as far as people just playing the game, you have a simple story that is very inviting and is resonant with the mechanisms. Second thing is, I'm centering a farmer. Is that exciting? I mean, isn't the original Puerto Rico, you have the whole island, you're trading and everything. How could I go hyper local and be excited about making a farm? Wait a minute. What's that? We already play games about farming. We play a lot of games about farming. So is this another one? Well, this is one with a very, very interesting twist. And so I'd like to articulate that twist right now. Wow, I am here 16 plus minutes into the video, and now I'm getting into the mechanical integration. Now, what are you getting when I get this new and re-envisioned version of Puerto Rico? You are getting the same mechanical experience. All this work, and I've put in a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of thinking, a lot of talking to people, just putting it all together because I know that people want their Puerto Rico, and I want to do the best that I can to give it to you in a way that's enticing and inviting and appealing to more people coming in. Mechanically, nothing changes. It's most of the changes are along the lines of graphic design and illustration. Let me run through all the little bits. So, the player boards. Right there, it's a problem because you're showing the entire island and you're showing plots that are island-wide. And the only plots that you're going to get that are island-wide are plantations. Doesn't help that the rulebook calls them plantations. We're getting rid of all that. And we're putting the plots on a local community farm. That's it. Anybody can work a plot in a local community farm. Now we're going to the city. In the basic game, you're building up just San Juan, right? San Juan is depicted on the player board, and now it's like they're telling you that you're building up this one city. But Puerto Rico has a lot of cities, and if I'm telling this kind of like local to national story, then the different player boards can actually echo the different cities. So you have Ponce, Mayagüez, Arecibo, Bayamón. These localities and what we call campo, the farmland and the rural land around that, and they are competing. You can imagine they're competing, and their competition is ultimately of benefit to the entire island. So as you play in these different areas with the different player boards, you can imagine that you're playing with your own localized city that you can actually visit. So personally, I think it's really cool. I get a real kick when games have like the real thing or names of the real thing, so I can kind of put myself in that space just a little bit. Like I'm a big Assassin's Creed player, so the Assassin's Creed goes all over the place. It goes to Jerusalem, goes to in number 1, number 2, Roma, Firenze, and all the different sequels after that. And it's awesome to like go there and know a little bit about what you're seeing and what you're doing there. So you're not gonna have a whole bunch of like Mayagüez history, or you just have a little echo of the city. And the history, they were there, like the cities were there, and they were, roads were built shortly before the Spanish-American War, but they modernized in this period. So in a real way, your little campo, the little farm and attached to a city, is growing and modernizing in and of itself, and you can tell that story in a wonderful graphic design way without changing the mechanisms. So now let's get back to those farms, the campo, so to speak. The workers on the farm are now Puerto Ricans. or they may be immigrant laborers. Puerto Rico the doors are always open to European immigrants or people from St. Thomas, St. Kitts, the other Caribbean, West Indies islands. We've always had a rich variety of people. Our color hues range from dark to light. It's always very inviting, and we can tell the story of a labor force. And I'm not sure what to make the color of the things, but I'm open to any discussion on that. But the representation is what's important to me at this point, and it's everybody. And you can, if you really, really want to, and I would recommend this at least as a variant, to introduce a paid labor variant. Right now in Puerto Rico, you don't have to pay for labor; it just shows up. Maybe just something as simple as a little bit of extra money in the system, and then you have to pay upkeep along with because you have to pay upkeep for the goods when you execute the captain action. So there's upkeep for the goods, but the people stick around. That doesn't. I don't. Why are goods perishable, people are not? That's a bad story to tell. So why not have a variant in the book where it's at least if you can't pay your labor, it starts to leave. That the least that you could do to kind of reflect the fact that there's labor in there. Or if you don't want you just want the exact same game as you're familiar with playing where you don't pay for labor, you can always imagine that it's primo y prima, the cousin, and Enrique, levántate, oye, ven aquí, trabaja, and you're just people that are there and you're putting them to work. People in the community, people in your family, and you're putting them to work. So you don't have to do all this work, and you're seeing that I'm a big thematic gamer, but to me, I think it matters because I'm sure that I'm not the only one that wants to look under the hood of this stuff. And when they look under there, I want them to like what they see. So much of the action in Puerto Rico, the board game, happens on the player boards, acquiring goods and building up buildings. It all happens there. But the point where things come together in the game is when it comes to trading and shipping. So those are more or less common spaces where you have your trading post and you can sell individual goods for money, or you have your ship. In the original game, as I said, it goes off to Spain or goes off to wherever. It doesn't have to be like that, especially the ship. We're getting rid of the ship because, like I said, we're trying to tell a story of keeping things as local as possible. So they're carts. And where are the carts? I noticed when I mentioned cities, I did not mention San Juan. I'm saving San Juan just graphically for a construction where it's like a trading post, the road to San Juan. So the farmers come together at this trading post, and it can get pretty cutthroat and nasty, and that's what the real fun of Puerto Rico is if you're not on the receiving end of that. When one person will take that one little thing of sugar and put it right on a 6-space boat, and nobody else is working on sugar yet because they have it, and the person's like, there you go, I'm just gonna have to wait and make my own sugar, and it takes you rounds and rounds to catch up on sugar so you can get in on that boat that someone has claimed already. That is cutthroat and really fun and a delicious moment, and it resonates really well with farmers competing. This was not a cooperative game that cooperated politically, but economically, rivals. And they raced to San Juan and other places that were international and to get their goods out to wherever it had to go. So you can represent that graphically as the quote-unquote road to San Juan. You can have little carts. Maybe you have a little deluxe edition where you have the actual carts and actual things you can put in. Come on now, this is a game. We're having fun over here. And not only do you have the little I guess transport phase, you'd have to call it now, not the captain phase. Let's call it the transport phase. And then you have the trading post. And so the trading post looks like that. There is so much room for the trading post to be a truly open space where you let the air in. Now we're trading and we can trade into international space, right? We're not just ejecting our, goods. We're actually, maybe people are coming into San Juan. San Juan's an international city, and you can have alternate, things on there. You can, have variants, promos. I'm opening up space so that we can get more stuff, make more content for this thing. And you can depict all sorts of different people on that trading post tile. The traders, they can come from, St. Thomas, St. Kitts, like my friend Mandy Hutchinson from the Dice Tower, my Caribbean sister, she can be a trader. Or, someone from Africa or someone from America. And you know what? Just as a little olive branch to people who are attached to the basic game, we can even make this guy into a trader. It's okay. I'm not mad at the original game. It was a product of its time, and it's just not the right time for it anymore. We've adapted to our knowledge. We're more aware of the impact of what even cultural, that games are cultural products, and it can have an impact on people. We weren't as aware of that before. We're aware of it now. I'm not mad. We can bring aspects of the old game, and that'll be a nice homage to have a trader tile with the old guy. And, all the roll tiles, you can have the roll tiles, just kind of like, line them up, different kinds of, people and colors and hues. And like I said, Puerto Rico, we run the gamut of hues, dark to light and everything in between. So there's just stuff in the margins that could be addressed. Also, Puerto Rico doesn't grow indigo. We can replace that with something. I'd have a lot of ideas for that. Prospector. The prospector was an anachronism even back in the time. Puerto Rico had very little, if any, gold, and even moving down, we're not getting that at all. So we'd have to kind of replace that prospector. There's a lot of little wrinkles that you can dig through, and someone who's just playing is not even going to notice. But the best stuff has attention to detail. And that is something that I would be really excited about if the publisher were to look at this and just attend to the little details and get those right, just to complete that overall story. That this is now we're telling a local story with an international kind of window through the trading mechanism. But at the end of the day, it's local and it honors what we have to offer as an island. All right, so who is going to like this new version? Well, I make no secret, I am on the progressive side of things, and I have shown this to different content creators just kind of on the low, talking through it and, solidifying my thoughts about it. And I've gotten universal acclaim. People are eager, as a matter of fact. It isn't just like a lukewarm thing. People who remember the game and remember playing when they were younger, but they kind of passed it on because they didn't like the theme. Like, I'm not going to play this anymore. And they look at me and they say, Jason, if something like this happens, I would be happy to purchase this game, talk about it, and play it again. That's kind of on my side. And then there is a large swath of people, maybe the majority of people, who don't care. I know I'm talking for on and on. Most of y'all don't care. It's just give me the mechanisms. And so that's why I did so much work to envision this thing in a way that leaves the mechanisms alone, so that, I'm thinking of Tim Mitford from Meeple Bill, who told me that when he plays Puerto Rico, it's all gone. It's just beautiful mechanisms. So here you go, Tim. Beautiful mechanisms in a nice, inviting package that's as similar, as calming as the old one, but doesn't raise as many problems for people who are paying attention. So win-win, Tim, you and me. And anybody else that just focuses on mechanisms. So there's a win there for you too. That leaves people who are, for whatever reason, attached to the old thing. And they're wondering why bother, what's going on here. To you, I say, if you resist this, if you resist a new vision of a board game that could be more inclusive and more exciting to more people, because you're somehow attached to the old version, then I really have to question what is going on there motivation-wise. So just a couple more quick things before I wrap this up. Full disclosure, I have been contacted by folks at Alea, People have found out that I am revisioning things, and they've seen my videos and how interested I am in making something new that's kind of a win-win for people, and they seem interested. There is nothing that's been announced yet. I did tell them that I'm releasing this video. I'm actually hopeful that this video helps whatever else that we've discussed and I've written to them to help you. So if you're watching this video, people at Alea, hi. I hope this helps. And I'm just going to put myself out there. If you want to hire somebody who is a cultural consultant, who wants to, who can help you move this forward, this game, whether it's in this vision or something else, I'm right here. My rates are reasonable. I'm ready to be hired, ready to do work because I'm really, really passionate and excited for what this project could be. And the last thing I'll say is if you are a Puerto Rican artist or someone who is of Caribbean descent or kind of knows the area, knows the history, and or maybe if you're in board gaming or if you're not in board gaming and you happen to have this video kind of floats in your direction, reach out to me, give me a call, give me a text. I would be very excited to continue thinking through my little vision and to have kind of a visual representation. And who knows, it may, open that doorway and we can work together, because at the end of the day, that box is important and who's on that box. And I think for me, if you're going to put the name Puerto Rico on there, you're going to make money off of my island, then I want to see my people on it. Please reach out to me, not only the Puerto Rican artist or anybody who has reactions to the video. Please tell me if you enjoyed what I'm presenting, the track that I laid. What do you think of my thought experiment? Is that a cool way to approach redoing Puerto Rico? Is it a cool way to approach a lot of these colonization games that are kind of based on real historical realities? There's a lot of different principles that I presented, right? Hyper local, and from the perspective of the local folks, or so to speak. There's a lot that went into it. I'm very, very happy and excited to either talk about this or how it could apply, or critiques if you know the history better than I do, because I'm still kind of learning. I'm very excited to learn more. All sorts of discussion. I really am kind of worn out on the whether I should bother. I'm worn out. I've talked about that elsewhere. Puerto Rico, the game is not fine. I will never be convinced that it is. The current game is fine. I think the publisher is listening to that and they're willing to make changes. So let's not debate the past. Let's look to the future. I'll just kind of end on that very hopeful note. So this is Jason reminding you, if you can change your mind, you can change the world. So until next time, cause some good trouble.